So in this video I'm going to show you what are built-in variables in Solidity, why we need those, how we can use them, etc. So here I have a contract, simple contract that I built using Remix, and by the way, Remix is just an IDE in the browser that you can use to develop smart contracts. In the first built-in variable that you have in Solidity, or maybe I should give an introduction to built-in variables. So built-in variables are just variables you have in Solidity by default, and these variables you can use for different things. And today I'm going to show you some of them, the most common one, the ones that you're going to use most often. But here you have a list of all of them in the documentation, and this is going to be linked down below. So the first variable I want to show you is the message.sender, and this variable basically accesses the message and then the sender of the transaction. And this variable gives us the address that called of the sender that called this function, or the who made the transaction. So here, if I go up here, I can choose an address that I want to call this function with. So I'll choose this one that ends in, and you need to see this, that ends in CB2, and I'm going to deploy the contract. And by the way, I didn't explain this function, but this getSender function is a view function, which means it just only reads data from the blockchain. It's external, which means any outside contracts and everyone outside can call this, and it returns an address, and the address is the actual address that called this function. So I've already deployed the contract, and I've chosen this address to deploy the contract with, and now with this address I'm going to call the getSender function, and I'm going to get the exact same address. So if I switch the address to, let's say, this one, which ends in C4, and I call this getSender function, I'm going to get a different address, this address. And why would you want to use this? Well, let's say this function, let's say this sender, this address, wants to send money from his account to his grandpa, and you would use this his address to take the money and transfer them to his grandpa address. So that's all about the message sender. Let's now switch to the message.value built-in variable, and with this one gets you the amount of ether that was sent in the transaction. So here I have just a getValue function to represent how this message.value works, and again external function, and notice this payable keyword, which just means that you can send money in this function when you call this function. So also I have this public amount variable that gets assigned the message.value, so we can see it later. So now to send money in this when calling this getValue function, you'd have to go up here, choose the actual amount you want to send, and we want to send ether and not some way. And these are just small, these are again ether, but these are smaller units of measurement of ether. So we're going to choose 1 ether because we have plenty of ether here, or let's just send 10, or let's just send 19. So currently I have 99 in this address, and I'm going to send 19 ether. So now I have specified the amount of ether I want to send. Let's now call getValue, and as you can see, these are marked with red because these are payable functions. So click on getValue, so it says the transaction is pending, the transaction is complete, and now if I click the amount, I should get 19 ether. And again, we get 19 with 18 zeros because this is specified in a way in this unit of measurement. So why would you use this message.value? Well, whenever a sender makes a transaction and sends some ether, you might want to check how much ether does has he sent to the transaction. For example, let's say you're building an NFT collection and one NFT is selling for 0.5 ether, which is a lot, by the way. And you want to make sure they're sending the actual ether to buy the NFT, or you wouldn't mint them the NFT. So again, we have here another variable which is just ether, and this one, yeah, just specifies the amount of ether. And I have made a function for this, and it requires that the amount of ether being sent should be greater than 1 ether, or we will revert the transaction with this message. So that's what the required keyword does. And again, this is a payable function. So let's now go ahead and send less than 1 ether, like 0.5, or actually we cannot send 0.5. So let's choose way and send very little way. This is less than 1 ether. And let's call the function now require ether, and let's see what happens. And of course the transaction reverted, because that's what the require keyword does. It reverts the transaction if this condition is not true, which it isn't, because we were sending only 10 way. So let's now not joke around and send 10 ether, and this is way above the amount of ether we need to send, but it's okay. So let's now click on require 1 ether, and as we can see, the transaction was successful.